All right, man.
Howdy.
How's it going?
Good.
Good to see you again.
Yeah. Another week.
Another week. So I heard a message at church, and I kind of wanted to explore it a little bit with you, and
All right.
just kind of get your feedback on it. But it was about forgiveness and the ability to forgive and resentment. And it got me thinking a lot about life, obviously, and the times I felt like I had to forgive somebody, but do I still hold resentment? So there's that saying, I can forgive, but I can't forget. And as I started diving into this, I feel like that's a false statement. I think it's impossible because, and I'd like to hear your feedback, but personally, I think it's impossible because the forgetting part, not forgetting, you still hold resentment toward that person or whoever that you said you forgave. So I kind of looked it up on like what is the definition of forgiveness, and it's basically a conscious effort to let go of the anger and the hurt that was caused to you by another person, a job loss, whatever it may be, right? That you feel like, I can't forgive that person for doing that, or I had to forgive that person for doing this. So, and it's really got me thinking a lot, right? Because it's easy to say I forgive someone, but this whole not forgetting part is the part I'm like, no, that's where I'm kind of calling bluff. Yeah. Because it's resent that you still hold on to the anger of what this person or situation caused you, right? So you said you have something, a situation.
So it's several years ago, something was kind of said or implied toward Lori and my wife, and I essentially just said, okay, we're just going to cross this person off the list.
Right.
And it was because of how it made Lori feel. And I mean, it hurt and everything. And so, and this was not the macho husband kind of thing.
I know what it is. I think you told me about the family stuff, right? Yeah.
So it was 3 years later that Lori said, I don't even remember. And I said, fine, it's done. It's over. It's forgiven.
Right.
Forgave and forget. If you'll allow me, the forget part, my dad told me, because I said the same thing, Dad, you can't forget it. I mean, it happened. How do you cross that out of your mind? He goes, that's not what the forget part means. And it alludes to what you said. It's, you got to let go of the feeling. That's what it is. The forget, it will always be there.
Right.
And it's a reminder to be cautious, maybe next time, if it's a situation, that you find yourself in again. Right. Or it's a reminder that this is not someone I want to be around or associate with, right? So, or even in situations, oh man, I had this happen before, I remember this, I'm going to remember, but it's not remember with resentment or with the anger, because if you're still holding on to that anger and resentment, well, you haven't forgiven them. Do you disagree?
I do.
It's okay.
And the reason I say that is because when you start talking about it, your body language, your emotions, I can feel, I can see it in you when you're talking about it, that it still kind of pisses you off now.
I accepted what I kind of came around to was I accepted that that's just how that person's just going to be that way. And so if they live rent free in my head, well, that's on me.
Of course. But if they tried to get back in your life, or I'm sure they have, or whatever, but you can't forget, you're like treading lightly because you know what they're capable of.
True.
Right.
Which is what I was saying, that you can't delete it from your memory.
Right.
But the way I interact with them, and this goes for anybody, not just this particular story, but the way I interact with them, I'm going to proceed with caution.
Right.
Which I don't see that as hanging on to, like a resentment or anything. I think it's just being smart.
Right. And I think now that you kind of put it like that, it makes sense, because I look back and I think there are people that have done me wrong, and I'm just like, but I don't know if I forgave them. I definitely don't have resent from them. I just deleted them out of my life.
Exactly.
And that is, that has been my thing. Like, once I feel betrayed or I lose my trust in you, I delete you out of my life.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's my way. But maybe the more fresher wounds, sometimes I still hold resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And, they think time heals. Yes-ish.
Yes.
You start to compartmentalize it. You have other things going on that you're probably more upset about than that. So you kind of like, but I just think I've compartmentalized things, but then when I start thinking about it, like I started thinking about some things when we were going to film this, and I could feel myself getting like worked up a little bit, and I read this quote, and it's pretty interesting.
Okay.
And it's from Nelson Mandela.
Oh, okay.
And basically he said that holding on to resent is like drinking poison and hoping your enemies die. So think about it.
Okay.
So it's like drinking poison.
Yeah.
So you're only hurting yourself.
Well, yeah.
Resentment is only bothering you. It's not bothering anybody else. You're the one holding on to this. You're the one dwelling on it. You're the one paralyzed with anger by it. And the person you're holding it against probably doesn't think twice about it.
Well, they're living rent free in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So the sermon really caught me, and it really got me thinking, because I'm not a big forgiver. I just delete.
Just delete. Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I have realized that there are certain people that I'm willing to maybe bend a little bit, but I feel like the original relationship was so organic, and so I was so organic in how I felt, how I acted, all the things, and then after something happened, it's almost like I'm not the same version of that original version I was around the person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like, so like in your case, when you're around that person, when you first met that person and got to know that person, you were probably a lot different around them than you are now, right?
True.
Maybe you can trace that back to what happened and say, I can never be my authentic self around that person again because of what they did. And I think that's the part of just, because you kind of have no choice. You have to be around. Mm-hmm. But there's other people you're probably like, good luck.
There's
fun.
a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, this topic really is like, got me thinking, throw me for a loop in a way, because I'm just like, how can you forgive, forget, forgive, not forget, and not hold resentment toward that person.
Yeah.
And it's a tough thing.
It is.
And I think it's, in the Bible, turn the other cheek or whatever. It's not that easy. And because you think to yourself, like, how could this person have done that to me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what causes anger. Or I thought I knew that person better, or, whatever goes through your mind, right? It's just, I don't know if it's a victim mentality, some of it, or you're just a true organic. I don't know. I mean, this is a very, intense topic, because you can talk about a lot of things, but I think forgiveness is a very, very difficult thing for me personally, as a human, but just as a person who has a very small circle. So if somebody in that small circle does something, it hurts a lot, because it's a small circle.
Yeah.
And so I just think there are some things that, as I've gotten older, that I had and held resentment toward, that now that I'm older, I understand why that person did what they did, and now I accept it. Does that make...
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, maybe when you were a kid, you're like, my dad, I can't, whatever. And then as you got older, like, I probably would have done the same thing if I was him. And I think that's part of maturity. That's part of, just growing up, understanding life. And, there might have been things when you had no kids and single, and like, I'm never going to, treat my son the way my dad treated me. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm doing the same thing.
And here I am. Yeah.
And now I know why he did it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it seems like tough love or whatever it is, but it makes sense. But it also, as we've gotten older, and I think some things hurt worse now than when we were kids, because we have all this time. We're just like, whatever, I'm off to the whatever, right? And then you're like, we're like this age, why is this person doing this? It makes no sense to me. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to solve this debate over these two things.
But how much time?
In a lifetime. But it really, maybe we can do another show on it. Like, we can talk about, as it marinates with you a little bit more, like thinking about it, because since we decided to do a show on forgiveness, and I heard that sermon, it's been weighing on my mind a lot, just trying to understand what my capacity is to forgive. Also, do I hold a lot of resentment in my heart? And why can't I let it go? And is it fresher wounds than others? I don't know. And then again, there's that whole bucket of delete. Yeah. Which, sometimes I wish it would have gone differently, because maybe I think about that person or miss that person or in my life and a friend, but man, it's so hard to go backwards. And you're just like, to your point, you're always on caution. You're always like,
sure. And I think, but the forgiving part is what, we're told to do that in the Bible. It says that we need to forgive, and it calls that out, and that's a hindrance if you don't. Right. I mean, that's a bad thing. I had a friend. I'm going to see if I can put it into the words. It's been a while since I've thought about it. But when we ask God to forgive us, we've sinned, right? We've done something, and we ask God to forgive us. God says if you say it with sincerity and you earnestly repent, and repent means to turn the other way. If you genuinely ask for forgiveness, then God forgives you.
Right.
What? Done. It's over. But I know I do this. My friend was talking to me about it. He goes back and he says, God, again, please forgive me for this. Right? He didn't do it again. he just went back and he said, God, please forgive me again.
Right.
Well, he already did. And then you do it again and again. Satan is winning.
Right.
Satan is in your head, and he's causing you to remember, and he's trying to put that sin back up at the front of your mind,
right.
to kind of claw at you. And God's going, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
I've
already moved on.
I'm way past it. I thought we were good, right? I thought we moved past this. Why did you keep bringing this up? So when we're dealing, that's how I really had a kind of a pivot in how I forgave people. When something came up, hey, I don't want it burdening me. I don't want it to burden them. Right now, if they've come to me and said, forgive me, that's a different conversation than what we're talking about, really, of us forgiving someone
right.
for a wrong or something, how they've done. But that's kind of the pivot I made, that I'm going to forgive. That I'm not going to hold anything here. I'm going to proceed with caution, right? It's like how you deal with people at work, or how you, when you meet someone and you find out they have a different belief, right? Well, you may not find that out on day one. It may be months into it, and you then proceed around that particular topic cautiously, right? You maybe don't talk about it. You talk about something else instead. So that's what I mean when I say, approach with caution.
No, you're right. And I think, and now we're talking through this, and as we're talking, I'm starting to wonder, like, what is forgiveness? Like, I don't even know what that means in a way, because as a kid, we're like, you do something wrong, you go to confession, say 5 Hail Marys, 2 Our Fathers, and you're good, right? I'm good. And then it's like, huh? And then how many times have you said to someone, no, we're good. Like, that's your way of kind of forgiving them, but actually it's probably not that sincere, because you're like, yeah, we're good. Yeah. But you're still, like, I guess for me, that original relationship is never the same.
But the relationship is our relationship constantly evolving.
Right.
It's not the same as it was
when
we first met.
Of course not.
But we've had to, there have been things that we've both said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right? And we've forgiven one another, but it hasn't soured our relationship.
No.
It's developed. It is now this way.
Right.
Where it was here, now it's here. But as long as it's, I guess.
I think I know exactly what you're saying. I think it's different because I organically 100% believe your apology.
Okay.
And I think for you're just like, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
I think there is,
when it's a one-sided forgiveness,
a trust in that, in the relationship, that I know what happened wasn't malicious intent behind it. It had a malicious intent behind it. So it's easier. And I'm like, that's not that person. They would never do that intentionally. It was a complete mistake, like accident, just, yeah, whatever. And so it's easy. It's when it's, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, it's like more of a, like,
well, I held on to that for 3 years. The example I was talking about, I held on to it for 3 years.
So I just think it's ever evolving. And I just think we can only hold ourselves to so much of an expectation, because it's just human nature to not. It's very difficult.
Yeah, it is.
It's very difficult. I think each individual is different, but it's very difficult for me to forgive, and unfortunately, the forgetting part is what goes on in me.
Yeah.
So,
well, but don't stop. Don't stop trying.
No, I can pray and just continue to evolve as a man. And I will say I have improved, but far from perfect. But getting there, and I guess a lot of it, to be honest, and not to be like, hey, get off my lawn, but a lot of it's just age, where you're just like, it is what it is. Yeah. I have only so many years left with this person or this person. It is what it is. I understand why they did it when they did it, but whatever. And I feel like that comes more with family than anything else.
I think.
Because other people, you're just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Move
whatever.
on.
Because I don't care enough. You know? So, I don't know. It's just a very interesting topic.
Yeah, it is.
And
it is.
I think, again, once it soaks in a little bit, maybe we'll cross this again. Because it's amazing, like, organically, a lot of our topics play off, I made, mistake regret or opportunity regret or forgiveness or this, or, God was talking to me on this journey. It's all kind of connected.
Yeah.
And it's really odd. It's like a spider web, But yeah, I appreciate you sharing and opening up, and it really makes you take a step back and think.
Indeed.
So, all right, brother.
Okay.
Thanks for watching Man vs. 50 with author Richard Maloof. Don't forget to subscribe.